So yeah, let's start with the presentation. How many of you in this room are like not using AI? Yeah, I see. How many of you are using AI? Just can you show me a reason? Probably everyone in this room. But one more top of the question. How many of you are ever facing consequences because of the AI? Like AI not giving an accurate result. How many of you have faced that? I think most of us, 90%. So here is like the interesting story. One of my friend, I just named to keep the name anonymous, or let's say Bob. So Bob, he had a high fever and he asked ChatGPT, okay, I'm having a high fever. What can be the symptoms for this? And like ChatGPT gave him the symptoms, but then like he also asked for a solution or a medicine. Imagine what could have happened, like two cases. ChatGPT could have like just given some kind of solution. Other thing could have been like, just imagine like what kind of solution which was given by ChatGPT. It would just vague, just a little bit vague. The very next day, like he got diarrhea, like with the symptoms of high fever. Like so sometimes like AI does provide some kind of solutions which are like not exactly coherent. So we have to use like particular guidelines, roadmaps, strategies so that like we can actually mandate our AI strategies. So in this particular topic, we are going to discuss about like how you can build your production grade rack systems. So this is very exciting topic as like I have been working on the AI governance research side of things, and my co-speaker Shikhar, he is working at MGB. So together like we came across to work on this particular topic. So just to give a small introduction about me, I am Nikunj Doshi. I have been working on AI research and governance policies for Center for AI and Digital Policies. I did my master's in computer science from Northeastern University a couple of years ago, and also did my MBA in IT project management. And most of the time professionally, I work with like a lot of consulting projects, particularly focusing on cloud, AI, and data analytics. And most of my clients have been in the fintech and healthcare industries. So it has been like my great privilege to work with like one of the world's leading healthcare companies. And I have been getting like a lot of exposure and expertise in this particular area. So Shikhar.
So hey everyone, I'm Shikhar Patel and I completed my master's from Northeastern University. Currently I'm working as a data engineer with Mass General Brigham. Also, like I'm working with the Office of Chief Medical Officer, where they are trying to use AI in order to enhance the population health, and we are working on really impressive usage of AI in order to ensure that how we can enhance the population health. And yeah, that's about me.
So just to give like a small content description, so we'll be like discussing in detail like why you need to have RAG systems for your AI applications, and like how you can actually fix your data pipelines with this. And other important things will be focusing more on the AI policies, governance, what are like the boards who control this AI policies, and how like if you are a data scientist or an AI engineer, how you can actually try to work upon with this strategies so that like you can actually build like a full grade production system. And lastly, we'll also show a demo as well. So in 2026, Gartner reported that like 80% of the companies across the globe have been implementing AI. And what specifically they have been using is RAG. So they have like deployed some AI agents or RAGs. And that has drastically increased like the production cycles within the companies. And it was just like 5% in 2023. So you imagine like what has been the implications of AI in terms of production system, especially in the healthcare industry. So these are like some of the industry statistics which have been using and getting benefited from AI. So very first thing is like orthopedic. So this has like increased drastically. So we can see over here like we have identified like three major KPIs. One is latency improvement, second one is error detection, and third one is cost reduction. So like you can see the average latency improvement has been 29% with the help of RAG systems using built on top of AI. Second thing is like average error detection. So with this AI detection, it's like 2.1x, like you can find the error rates. And then cost reduction has been also significantly reduced, and it's 55%. So it's almost cost like double times. So the major industries in like the domains from the healthcare industries like been orthopedic, cardiovascular diseases, neurosurgical, plastic surgery, GI, etc. So like we compare like each and everything like in terms of like what are like the three main KPIs for this. The next slide. Before we deep dive into like main technical aspects, we want to highlight why this particular topic is really important and like what are the AI standards. Like anyone can code, anyone can design a piece of snippet for any production system, or like any software can be like developed with any AI agents. But what happens like if your code is not compliant? Has anyone have faced any kind of issues in respect to like any kind of compliance? Like most of the time, like people who work in the healthcare industry, like they always face such kind of compliance issues. Like maybe it's because of the policies, or maybe it's because of the regulation standards. So there are like some of the AI standards which one needs to follow. We have like listed down majority of them. So if you are working in the pharmaceutical, so like you have to follow FHI. So if you are working on drug discovery, then FDA. These are like one of the, and right now we are in USA, but like what if your healthcare solution has to be shipped in Europe? Shipped doesn't like has to have kind of worked in Europe. Then European Union, they have like their own set of standards. So like they have their EU AI Act. Then ISO X or ISO standards like across like every device for healthcare industry med device, like they have been used by for like risk management, device management, and for software lifecycle as well. So if anyone wants to like build any production reg systems for the healthcare industry, like these are like the must policies and standards one needs to know. Next. So now that like we have understood like what are the standards, but like we should also know who are like the governing bodies or regulators who actually mandate those policies. So everyone in this room would have heard about WHO, right? World Health Organization. So like they are the number one catalyst in terms of like regulating the policies. Then European Commission, as I told, FDA. So any US specific medical device or pharmaceutical industry, biotech or any healthcare thing, it has to get approved by FDA. Then only like you can use it in the production life cycle. So FDA is in, and then IEEE, they also provide like nowadays various AI standards and ethics-based solutions, so that like there are like no mismanagement and compliances. And then like the list goes on, like we have MHRA, UK, Health Canada, TG, Australia, etc. So these are the also major governing bodies. So just to like, before we deep dive more into technical side, we just want to highlight what are the important things in RAG, and especially why RAG matters in healthcare industry. So you see the global healthcare market is 8.8 trillion. It was in 24 and has been increased and going to get like, a significant, huge amount of significant increase by 12 trillion by 2030. So the opportunity is immense, and major criteria for this is like medical knowledge is like getting doubled. So like every now and then like there are like more number of LLMs which are like getting for medical industries, and then like there is like no specific way where you can actually train your RAG. So what are like the things which you can do? So physicians spend like most of the time like on EHR and documentation and not patients now. So anyone who is working more on the hands-on side of things for the healthcare industry, they would be getting to know. So one side we have AI who is like providing the solution through RAGs or MCPs, and other side is like there are like doctors who are like just focusing on this like documentation, like what are like the benefits of that and how they can actually implement. So Mayo Clinic because of RAG systems, 35% has been like a faster review, and Cleveland Clinic is like also one of the major contributors in terms of RAG research. So like they mentioned that like 40% of the authorization like are now being utilized by RAG. So let's deep dive more into the technical aspects.
Okay. So here are some of the unique healthcare RAG requirements versus the generic RAGs. So as you can see over here, like, if let's say for any sort of industry like the e-commerce or, like certain general aspects where we wanted to implement RAGs, we wouldn't be needing any sort of standards or any sort of guideline protocols for the domains. But the domains like the healthcare as well as financial would require certain set of standards which needs to be implemented. And for that purpose, accuracy is really a quintessential thing which would be required. So for the general rank, the accuracy can be on the lower side, like let's say around 90 to 95%. But in the case of healthcare, it should be essentially like 99% or above. And hallucination rate, like as we can see, like, most of the LLMs really hallucinate a lot. They will be confidently telling you like, yeah, this is the output and this is the thing which you should be utilizing. But it should be also be taken into consideration that the LLM should not hallucinate a lot, and rather shouldn't tell something which is irrelevant or something which is wrong. And for that purpose, also hallucination-free RAG is also important. Moreover, for the regulatory purpose in the healthcare domain, PHI, that is, personal health information, as well as the PIIs, needs to be, like de-identified such that personal information of all the patients and the people who are visiting the clinics and the hospital shouldn't be misused. Also, like the update frequency for the application of the healthcare as well as the financial, like you need to update it on the regular basis, as there are like certain set of guidelines as well as protocols which are changing now, on the regular basis. And for that purpose also you need to use some important websites, like PubMed, PubChem, which are being used across the industry of healthcare as well as pharmaceutical as well as biotech. So like, like having data from all those website would really help a lot to build a RAG pipeline, which could be used for the production purpose. And also like the context length for the healthcare domain, it would be enormous, as there are lots of research papers, lots of content which has been available. If you go deep dive into like any sort of report from the Cerner or Epic, you would be able to find lots of content, like hundreds of hundreds and thousands of documents for like 2 to 3 patients. And you need to optimally use the tokens such that like it won't be costing your organization a lot of amount. So here are some of the core challenges in the healthcare RAG. So firstly, it's hallucination, as we discussed. Like we need to use some tool or methodology in order to avoid the LLM application hallucination. And now like majority of the organizations started using like guardrails, which has been used in order to double check certain information and then come up with the outcome. And in this space, even NVIDIA NeMo has been used widely right now in order to ensure that the LLM application is compliant and it doesn't hallucinate. Also, like the outdated knowledge. As we know, like, we need to update with the industry, and we need to constantly take into consideration that the knowledge which it has is up to the mark and is latest. As I told you about PI and PHI leakages also should be taken into consideration, as like let's say we are using any sort of LLM application for having a brief outcome of the conversation between the patient and the doctor. If we use any sort of general purpose LLM application for that purpose, like it would be trying to take all sort of details which are been given. So for that purpose, de-identified data which has been given should be important. And for that purpose, also certain set of tools from the AWS as well as Azure are being used up in the industry. So from the AWS, we have AWS Comprehend, which has been used in order to de-identify personal information of individuals such that it doesn't give output. Like let's say it is trying to tell you a specific scenario. It won't be leaking your information to publicly that, yeah, this is the person who has been diagnosed with this specific thing. So it's really important that the data which has been given to the LLM application is de-identified. And also, as I told you, like extremely long context also would be costing the organization a hefty amount, and we should be trying to use the chunks of the vector as well as the tokens optimally, and in such a manner that it won't be costing an enormous sum of amount to the organization. Also about like there might be certain conflicting sources of information, and for that purpose also it's important that we try to re-rank and re-rank the context from the different sources which we are trying to bring in, and then we are using the one with the higher priority or higher rank compared to the ones which are at the lower rank, so that we can have the trusted information from which the data has been fetched and has been given to the user who is using the LLM application. So how does the architecture of the production healthcare system should consist of? So initially, it should have a secure ingestion layer. So it can be any sort of source like EMR, electronic medical records, PubMed, and up to date, and also certain set of internal PDFs which we are using, and all should be of having de-identified records. Like if you would have used Epic, so it tries to it obviously hides all the sort of identifiable information in order to ensure that proper only information which has been relevant for the use case could be used. And also, in order to access certain PHI information, you need to use REDCap, and then only you can access the information of the individual. And after that, you can do the chunking and enrichment, that is trying to assign tokens. As we know, tokens can be have nearly 3 to 4 characters, and on that basis we can try to chunk all the vectors, and all the words would be assigned a specific ASCII value, and the ASCII values are specifically stored up in the vector database, such as Pinecone and various other vector databases which are available. And also we need to do the embedding of those vectors such that whenever a user comes up with any sort of specific queries, it will be trying to give the relevant output at the end. And as I also told you about re-ranking, so re-ranking, certain times it's essential to re-rank your sources or the information from which we are getting, such that we can give the relevant output at the end to the user. And also this re-ranking strategy or the context which you are giving to an LLM in order to get the output is really important. Also, hybrid retrieval is getting has been used in order to get certain output, which would be appropriate, and it has also been used up in order to see that whether it is trying to give relevant output if we are trying to use vectors or not. And as I told you about vector database, there are various like Pinecone, VV8, Zilliq, or PG vector have been used, and also the metadata is essential, along with the vector database, as it would help us to solve nearly 80 to 90% of the entire problem if we are trying to use it along with the hybrid retrieval. And also, as I told you about guardrail and the fact checker, so there are various tools and technologies which are available, like the Nemo from NVIDIA and the guardrail as well. And also, it's important to keep track record of the audit logs and having a human in the loop dashboard, such that whenever there are a certain set of whenever any sort of query has been given to an LLM, and the LLM is not confident enough to give the output, we can have a track record of all that stuff, like what sort of queries it was not exactly sure and it gave the output. So we can have that audit log and that dashboard, which could ultimately help us in order to further fine tune it, and improve its overall accuracy for those specific context whenever it has been asked. So for the data pipeline and the continuous knowledge update, so as I told you about the PubMed and the clinicaltrials.gov and various other papers which have been available, nearly like 40 million plus papers which are there on this open source directories. We can use it from those places, and we can have nightly jobs for an Apache Airflow or any sort of cloud platform which provides Airflow. We can try to use it on the cloud, and we can have nightly jobs which are running in order to help us with the overall RAG infrastructure. Also, weekly guideline which has been given by the World Health Organization and NICE and EHA is also important, so that we can also understand like what are the latest like news or the articles or any sort of new ICD codes or anything which we need into which we need to take into consideration. Having an automated de-identification, like workflow or the tool could also help us in ensuring that certain information is not leaked to the audience. And also having knowledge graph fusion layer is important. Like, let's say we have a specific disease or any sort of like vaccine which we are using. It may be having more than one name, and like certain times our LLM won't be able to understand or trying to correlate that whether it belongs to the same individual vaccine or a disease, and it may be having different norms or the standards which are being used by various healthcare organizations across the globe. So they might be using different set of standards. So we should be having a graph fusion layer such that it can try to correlate those things and consider that it is the same thing, rather than taking into consideration that they are different disease or different vaccines, and ultimately it would cause a lot of confusion for us to understand those things. And also, like re-ranking or re-embedding only the updated chunks is important. Like we need to re-rank certain information after having the dashboard and human in the loop, so that it can next time be more confident and try to re-rank certain set of chunks which we are having from like either it may be from any sort of sources like internal sources or from Epic or like EMR, EHRs, or also from the PubMed or PubChem jobs which we are having.
So here are like some of the retrieval strategy that actually works in medicine. So very first thing is like the hybrid search. So many times like you will get some kind of grounded response that might not be accurate. So let's just imagine, like as I told you earlier, like you are looking for some kind of response for a clinical feedback for a disease with respect to, let's say, high fever, but then it gives you a very vague response. So like the refining of the search needs to always done continuously. And so how does it does? Like through metadata filtering, like what you need to have what kind of filters for that, like drug class, publication year, what are the evidence, and like what are hospitals who are working on it. Then you also need to have a parent-child chunking. So what exactly parent-child chunking systems means is like you have to see like what are the spins actually, what like the confidence thresholds, like what are the conflicting outputs in that, and that's how like you manage it. I know it's little bit like something or very high level stuff, but if you are working on the data science side of the things, like you will continuously get this kind of things.
And also, like for the parent-child chunking, like parent, it would be kind of like the summary of the entire thing, and the child would be linked to it in the form like it would be consisting of the entire, like more sort of information, such that it would save the time of the LLM. Like whenever it is asked in a generalized manner, like what exactly this specific thing is, it would be trying to go into the summary and it would be giving the output. Whereas in the case of child, if you go deep dive into asking more sort of questions about the specific topic, it would be going into the child domain, and it would be giving you the relevant output from the child, so that it could save like couple of microseconds for you to retrieve the output at the end.
So before we jump into the demo, like we also wanted to show some of the critical things. So as we like talked about like what are the best strategies. So how you should actually like working on the tokenization. So like LLMs are like purely based on like tokenization. So there has to be some kind of limits for that as well. So various thing is like hierarchical retrieval. Then like if you have a long context, so what are the basic models which one you can use? Like so Gemini 1.5 Pro and Claude and like even Grok. And if you are like continuously like trying to train your models, then like what are the ways like you can try to cut short it. So you can like use the concepts like map reduce and sliding window concepts. So like your chunks can be divided and distributed equally. And then you can also use dynamic context compressions. Now that like your production based RAG and LLM models like ready, but then there are various times like you will be facing hallucination issues. So obviously, like if in healthcare industry, hallucinations issues are like number one critical thing. So what are the ways like you can try to avoid hallucinations? So very first thing is always retrieve before generating. So before like the context is given, like you should retrieve the output and thoroughly check it. Then also do self-consistency check and citation validations. This is very important thing. Like many a times citations from various notepads or like notebooks or journals, like they are like continuously updated, and there could be issues like if you are using some kind of citations which were like from the previous decades, it's not going to work on like the diseases which are like modern. So this is very important. And like you can always do like continuous advisor and red teaming. And like before we deep dive into the demo, I just wanted to like quickly show what are like the standard benchmarks for your production RAG systems in the healthcare industry. So these are like some of the standards like MedQA, PubMedQA, which we all discussed earlier, and some of the clinical metrics which always hospitals or any like patients will be looking for is like harm score, answer correctness, text to answers. So this will be specific things which we'll be looking upon. Now, most important thing, you are developing a system, but without security, like nothing is going to become a robust model. So you have to ensure that like your production system is secure and compliant. So how you are going to ensure that? Like through various compliances and parameters. So SOC2, Type 2, HIPAA compliances, these are like various standard policies and compliances which are being used in the industry. Other thing which I want to highlight is like whenever you are using any kind of healthcare applications or like building any, make sure that like your data is encrypted in rest or as well as in transit. So what does it imply to? Like the data within your data center should be also secure. And then if you are, let's say, migrating your data, another important thing is like if you are in the healthcare domain, the strict policies is to like have your data in your data centers. Like you cannot make it publicly accessible over cloud. So these are like one of the major healthcare criteria. And then like there are various policies for that.
The best practices checklist from overall the things which we covered could be like it should be about de-identified records from various sort of content system or internal PDFs or any sort of sources which we are using. Then the entire application of LLM should be running entirely on the customer side and also on the VPC or on premises. There should be human in the loop for low confidence answer, and proper citations and the sources should be linked to it in order to know from where exactly the context is coming. You would have seen various applications of LLM like Grok or any sort of chat GPT, that it would be providing you the citations as well as sources like from where exactly the data has been coming, in order to know the information is relevant and the sources are having good sort of scores such that it could be catered to a lot of audience. Also, there should be daily knowledge base updates, and hallucination rate should be taken into control. So this is a demo architecture of how clinical RAG could look like on premises. So for that purpose, like I would be showing you the clinical RAG application. So this is the entire application which was deployed on the cloud, and it consists of a RAG application which is helping a doctor, get to understand a patient well. So as you would be knowing, like, whenever a patient and the doctor are having interaction with each other, like there are certain minute details which the doctor might be missing. And for that, like it's important to assist doctor and also to have an AI, which could help doctor better have a clarity on decision, as well as minute details which the patient might be talking when they would be having conversation with each other. So over here you can see that initially in the application the doctor needs to log in, and for that purpose we are using Firebase in order to do the authentication, and later on we are using Streamlit over here in order to have it as a UI for the doctor to see or have various things which he can fill, and also use it for the front end purpose. And over here we are using two models. One is Gemini and the other one is OpenAI's GPT. It's a kind of like multi-model application where Gemini has been helping with the image analysis, and the OpenAI has been using with the getting relevant output for the textual stuff whichever we are giving. Also, for transcribing the entire conversation between a patient and the doctor, we are using OpenAI's API in order to transcribe the entire thing which has been like conversed, and it has been properly transcribed. And that entire note, the doctor can either edit it or change it as per the requirement, and would be storing it in the S3 bucket. Later on, we also used Airflow DAG over here, and we scraped data from PubMed and PubChem, and we stored it into the Snowflake, and by using the DAGs, and we entirely we use the Selenium and Beautiful Soup in order to scrap that entire data. After we also use Pydantic in order to do the de-identification of the data, as well as ensuring that certain set of rules and standards are been ensured, such that it won't be trying to do any sort of data type mismatch, or certain set of spatial characters, and all that things will be taken care of before we store that data into Snowflake. And from Snowflake we'll be converting that entire scrap data into the Pinecone, moving it to the Pinecone for converting into the vectors. And later on we would be using LangChain in order to do the similarity search from the Pinecone. So it's kind of like a code snippet, like for generated summary of the patient, and this is the front end UI, how it exactly looks like. So it consists of main three features, which are like Percleus AI, which is used for transcription purpose. Like we used OpenAI in order to transcribe entire information, such that it could be used to store it in the S3 bucket. And also for the diagnosis purpose, we used another another LLM tool, which is Gemini Vision Pro, and medication. So on the basis of the information which the patient shared, and also the data which we scraped from all the different sources, we are trying to help doctor predict top 5 possible disease, such that we are assisting the doctor, not giving the exact thing, because if you'll be trying to give the exact disease name as well as the precaution, remedies, and cures, it will try to definitely hallucinate, and moreover, it will also, sometime it won't be helping doctor exactly with the outcome, as they might be having something different in their mind, but it might be giving errors in that case. So we used top 5 disease so that it could assess the doctor well.
So this is like just a basic example of like how you can access the platform, and like how you can actually use like a production rig systems. So here, like this is like a basic front end, like where you'll be just logging by your credentials, and like either you can sign up, and you can also use login. So this window functionality for that.
So this is patient management. So you can search for the name of the patient. You can enter the details. It would be storing all that data into a data warehouse and a database which is there on the cloud. And all the data which has been either retrieved or has been stored is directly going to the cloud, and it would help us ensure that all the data could be utilized by multiple teams and with ease. So you can see, like, if we try to enter details and after that we search, we'll be able to retrieve all the details. And over here in the Percleus AI, so a doctor can either record existing sort of, conversation which they are having. You can directly upload it or record it in the front, like upfront itself. And after having the entire conversation, they can just stop it, and entire thing would be transcribed and would be providing the entire summary. So for the time being, we just uploaded the entire file which we had.
So as you can see, like the audio transcription is being taken up, and then like the LLM is giving the system, and then the RAG system will be providing what could be the possible system. So it has severe joint pain. Just to give a small summary, like the patient had some kind of weakness in his body. So like these are like the basic symptoms which he has provided.
And it will be automatically, getting those symptoms on the basis of the, prompt which we would have given to the LLM in order to assist the doctor, get those symptom details, and it would be identifying those things from the conversation itself. And later on, we can try to enter the name of the patient, and it would be storing those the entire node in the TXT format in the S3 bucket on the cloud.
I think so. If anyone wants to just access this whole system, they can reach out to us. We can provide our code base access as well as like the working functionality demo later on. Just to keep in mind the presentation timings, we covered most of the stuff and would like to just quickly summarize this. So like some of the references which we have taken is like from this research text, and also like I have published my own paper prior to like AI. The paper is called like the disease inference using sparse deep learning. So that was like my research area for like predicting diseases from like the symptoms. And on top of that, like we built this LLM system on top of it. So we are open to questions now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, got a question about the logs and PHI data. Where do you storing the logs exactly? Can you have PHI data in your logs or?
So like, as per the logs, I think, whenever the LLM, like there is an internal dashboard which is there. So we would be trying to find out that what sort of, like query which was been asked to LLM, and, like with what sort of confidence it was trying to answer those details. So the one with the lowest, confidence rate, we would be trying to, look over those details, and would be trying to re-rank certain sort of, details on the data which was been brought up, such that it would be from next time answer those details with much more confidence and with the proper context, because certain times whenever the confidence score is on the lower side, it won't be that much accurate or up to the mark.
Thanks.
I have hopefully a quick question, which is on the index strategy you used for the RAG, because you said that you used a hybrid strategy between like normal vector indices and the standard sort of BM25. What made me curious is that for healthcare, since you want a very high retrieval accuracy, how come you kept the vector index around? Because I would assume that if you do something more traditional, then you would get higher accuracy. And I was like surprised by that choice, and I was like, what was your experience with that? And that was the question.
So, like I would say, for the hybrid retrieval strategy, it is sort of strategy. Let's say you are trying to, search for certain details or ask in the normal textual way, like what exactly is this thing. So it sometimes like it won't be able to answer the things appropriately, or like it won't be relevant. So for that purpose, this strategy would help us see that whether those details which we mentioned are there, and if so, if it is trying to bring those details from the vector database which we are having. So that is that is the main thing. It would be helping us with the 80 to 90 or 90% plus sort of thing. But if we want to further deep down, we can add metadata, we can do further things with it. So yeah.
I just want to add like one more thing based on the inferences which we have discovered. So during the time of COVID, like every other month, there used to be like some new symptoms or like new virus which will come. So in the traditional strategy, like what happens is like if today like you are just like trying to research on that, you will see like a COVID-19 virus, but then some other country or like some other month there is like a new virus outrage. So if you're still using that, like you will not be able to get like the closest result for that. And that's why like you need to use the hybrid search method, where you will continuously try to train the model with basic inferences as well as like the new findings. That way like the final prediction would be accurate enough.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? Oh, thank you so much for like listening to us. I hope like you get to know from scratch like how you can actually build your RAG systems and make it production ready for healthcare industries. And other thing is like we focused on AI policies and regulations, because nowadays anyone can build and design a system, but then if those are like not compliant, that could be like a biggest hassle for the industry. Thank you.